I watched Mandy undress, marveling at the fact that 10 years ago when I met her, she weighed 50 kilograms and has not gained a single kilogram since. I never tire of watching her. She looked at me and smiled, saying, "I see you still like what you see." She knelt before me, satisfying me, then pulled me onto the bed. I never managed to take a nap. In fact, I was almost late for work. The work that day was hell. I kept thinking about the bugs, devices eavesdropping on our calls, and the receiver in the attic. What does all of this mean? I wonder what I will find when I get home. The receiver in the attic can only be checked when I am not at home. I am almost always at home during holidays, unless I am at work. This means that it can only be checked after I leave for work at 10:45, and before I come home at 8 o'clock. This means that, unless someone sneaks into the house after Mandy goes to work, before I come home, the inspector must be Mandy, or someone Mandy lets in after I leave. Hal's theory is that if I am being followed, they would check the receiver almost every day. The first thing I do when I get home is go to the attic. The micro camera installed by Hal is connected to a portable video recorder. He hid it under the insulation in the attic. I pulled out the tape, inserted a new one, and then went down to the basement. My workshop is monitored by spy cameras, but the rest of the basement is empty. So Hal installed a small TV video recorder, an audio tape player behind the Christmas decorations. I inserted the tape into the video recorder and pressed play. About 2 seconds later the screen went black. Then the screen showed a scene. A pried open attic hatch was pushed open. The timestamp showed 10:58. Not long after I left for work. Then Mandy's head appeared in the hatch. So far, despite knowing how unlikely it was, I still hoped that no matter what happened, Mandy was not involved. But there she was. I watched her walk to the receiving device, press the button. She looked and listened to the messages recorded on the answering machine. About 10 minutes later, then left the attic. I checked the phone tap installed by Hal. It's a voice-activated tape recorder. The meter reading was 217. So I took out the tape, put in a new one, reset the meter. I used headphones to prevent the spy camera in the workshop from being sensitive enough to capture other sounds in the basement. So I put on the headphones, rewound the tape, and pressed play. A male voice said, "Yes, good morning." "Good morning. Is everything okay on your end?" "Everything looks normal. Nothing unusual." "That's good, we don't need any complications." "Do you know today's plan?" "Of course, just checking." "It never hurts to check." "Everything will be done." He reminded me last night. So I need to make sure you don't forget. His shift ends in 2 weeks. He will be on the afternoon shift for 4 months. That will be a great help. And it can't come soon enough. What are you going to do about his day shift? Not yet. But I'm sure we'll come up with a feasible plan. Call me this afternoon. Not after 4 o'clock. It's okay. Just make sure you call me and let me know how things are going. Goodbye, goodbye. I sat there staring at the tape recorder thinking, what exactly is going on? "Mandy, what are you doing?" When I told him it was Mandy, who checked the radio in the attic, Hal was not surprised. Unlike me, he never denied it from the beginning, and knew it had to be who it was. He listened to the phone conversation, shook his head. "I've said this before, but it sounds bad. At least she's doing something they don't want you to know about. And it must be something serious. If they spend over $30,000 just to monitor you, I think you need professional help to deal with this." "You've said it once." "What do you mean by professional help?" "I mean you need a private investigator to figure out what Mandy is doing. I can't afford the kind of money needed for such a thing." It's not necessarily true. You might be able to do it without money. The person I'm thinking of has a private plane. I think he said it's a good opportunity for Beechcraft. Maybe you can work on his plane in exchange for him taking care of Mandy. He really doesn't need money. Being a private detective is more of a hobby for him. Hobby, yes. He used to be a stockbroker. Or some kind of financial genius. He either made a lot of money. Or got a lot of money. And then he retired and opened a detective agency. Because he always dreamed of being a private detective. It turns out he's very talented at it. And very successful. But if I were you, I would wait 2 weeks. Why? Because you will be free in the evenings and afternoons. Now, whatever she does must be done during the day. When she is working or supposed to be working. When you are swinging. She will have the evenings and days to work. This will give Glenn a better chance to quickly figure out what's going on. I don't know if I can hold on that long. Only you can judge that. I will call Glenn today and ask if he is willing to make a deal with you. Today I will buy a prepaid phone. Without telling Mandy. When I get it, I will call you at this number. I don't want to use my regular phone. Even though all the high-tech stuff they use. I don't want to risk my phone being tapped. Honey, I have to think about it myself. I called Hal at 4 in the afternoon. Gave him a prepaid mobile number. He told me he called a private investigator. His friend. The friend was interested in making a deal. He gave me that person's name and phone number. As soon as I hung up with Hal, I called Glenn Hossain and arranged to meet him at 11 the next morning. That night I pretended everything was fine. As far as I know, Mandy accepted. The next day I came home from work. Did not check the camera in the attic. Because it has already shown me what I needed. To find out who was checking the remote receiver. I immediately started to listen to the phone. Good morning, good morning. Everything is fine. He's been a bit off lately. But that's not unusual. He usually does this. At the end of his tough shift. Did you receive the message yesterday afternoon? About you being cancelled? Yes, I heard, Friday. Is still ahead, so contact me tomorrow. Goodbye, goodbye. At 11 o'clock, I walked into the Hossain investigation office. To meet with Glenn Hossain. He is the boss and the only employee. He already knew some of the story from Hal. I gave him the phone tap tape. He listened to my words, raised his eyebrows. They don't tell you anything you can use. But they tell you a lot. Because they let you know. There is something very cunning going on. So what do you want? I just want to know what's going on. We made a deal. He would do his research. I would do 100 hours. And his Beech Aircraft's annual inspection. Until I finished his fees. In addition to the inspection. I would do all the maintenance. But he had to pay for the parts. I gave him all the information about Mandy. Her schedule and where she worked. Her mobile number. And information about the car she drives. I told him Hal's idea. To wait until I start working another shift. He agreed it was a good idea. But he really wanted to do one thing. As soon as possible. He wanted to install a spy camera in my kitchen. That's where most people's lives end. They sit, chat, drink coffee or another drink. Among them, there's a flat surface to write or draw. I arranged for him to do it the next day. When Hal showed up the next day, I was not at all surprised. Setting up a spy camera in the kitchen. He told me he did all the electronic surveillance. I put him on the recording that morning. Basically the same as the previous 2 days. Good morning, everything is fine. And there is no plan for that day. Mandy brought some work home that night. So I went to my basement studio. Working on a bookshelf. In a way, it was a relief, because I didn't have to face her. If I don't look at her face, She won't notice. What's bothering me? At that moment, the last thing I needed was to make her worry. Think she needs to be more careful about what she's doing. On Friday morning, the person on the phone said, "Have a good weekend," which told me that whatever Mandy was doing, it only applied to Monday and Friday. Trying to understand what's going on. It's driving me crazy. Mandy's behavior towards me and since we started dating. She is loving, kind. Our love life is wonderful. We haven't had a quarrel for years. I can't see anything wrong in our relationship. What she's doing, and the people with her. Why are they so afraid to let me find out? Well, maybe by Monday I'll start getting some answers. When I start working this afternoon, Glenn starts to deal with this issue. I think I managed to get through the weekend without letting Mandy realize that everything is wrong. She didn't get a call in the morning. Because for the next 4 months, I will come home in the morning. She either has to talk to this man in the office, or use a mobile phone, or after I go to work. I note to ask Hal if we can put a voice-activated tape recorder in her car, just like the one she put in my car. On Tuesday morning after Mandy went to work, I reviewed the audio and video recordings of Monday. There's nothing interesting in the video, but there's something in the audio recording. "Hello, just checking in. Is this still valid tomorrow night? 2 hours ago. I really didn't expect this to be canceled. Are you sure everything is alright on your end? There shouldn't be any issues over there. It would be better if there were issues. We're not paying you to create problems. And you won't have any issues," Mandy growled at him. They said their goodbyes and hung up, leaving me alone to ponder other matters. Did Mandy get paid? Is this related to her job? 8:13 a.m. on Wednesday morning. My marriage is over. Turns out, we don't need Glenn to find out what Mandy is up to. Only what Hal grows at home is effective. After Mandy left for work, I had breakfast. I went to check the audio and video recordings from Tuesday. The attic video shows Mandy putting a receiver into something that looks like a portable CD player. The living room camera caught Mandy entering the room with a man I didn't recognize. They walked over and sat on the couch. The man embraced Mandy and kissed her. Then he asked her how much longer he had. She told him he needed to leave by 11. He said he didn't think he had enough time. She giggled and said, "You mean after spending 4 hours in the hotel room? What's left? I can never satisfy you, you know. I just don't understand why you insist on making love to me at my house. In my bed. Of course you do, Mandy. The best way to prove it is here. In your home, in your bed. On your kitchen counter, your washing machine and dryer, anywhere. Maybe my husband just has something to say about who I belong to. Forget him. If he was strong enough to keep you, I wouldn't be here. Would you like something to drink? Why should I prepare it for you? Scotch tape, if you have it." "Of course I do, darling. I knew you would be here. So I made sure I had your brand of tape. You knew you would be here." "Of course I knew, my love. I know what kind of person you are. I knew sooner or later you would want me here. I don't need this. I want you to talk nonsense in my bed. You want me to be in my husband's house. In my husband's bed. You want to leave your son in his house. To possess his wife on his territory. Don't even try to deny it. Make yourself comfortable, I'll bring you some scotch." Mandy left the room, and the man stood up. Took off his pants and underwear. And then sat back down. Mandy handed him his drink. And before he finished saying, "We need to go to the bedroom, baby. Your wish is my command, my love." Mandy stood up and walked towards the bedroom. By then, I was already in tears. I love this woman. From the day I first saw Mandy, she was my life. For all the years that followed, I thought she felt the same way about me. Your wish is my command. I was devastated. I forced myself to watch. What was happening in the bedroom? I needed some steel in my spine. For what was coming? The more I watched her betray me, the harder that steel became. I heard her tell him he had to leave. But why he could only be free at 11:30? And only come home after 12. We have time. No, we won't do that. I need to take these sheets off the bed. And put on clean ones. Then I need to take a shower before he comes home. Don't take a shower. Oh, of course, what will I tell them? Just tell him you're hot and wet. Because you're excited waiting for him to come home. Do you really want me to do that? Without a doubt. She was silent for a moment, then said okay. But if things go wrong? If he kicks me out, you might have to support me. Would you do that, for you my love? You know, if he finds out and we part ways. You know my offer without restrictions. I'll set you up in your own apartment. That's sweet, darling. But you really need to go. But be prepared for my call. If he doesn't like the way he feels. I thought back to the night before. Mandy greeted me when I walked in. She was wearing a black lace nightgown, high heels, and fresh makeup. I need you, baby. I'm as excited as a goat. I need you. Come on, baby, get in bed quickly. She was no different from when she made love to me before. But not knowing how long she had been making love to me, I had no way of knowing. I wasn't the second man that day. Every time we were in bed together, I remembered her about. For hours in your hotel room. I wonder how many times a week. When she was supposed to be working. Meeting someone in a hotel room. This gave me another idea. She's supposed to be at work. So how did she get out? Does her boss know what she's doing? Is he involved in some way? All these things I need to ask Glenn to find out. After watching the video, I listened to the phone conversation. Hello, he's gone. Everything went smoothly. He still wants me to be his mistress. It's a real shame we can't do this. It would definitely improve the situation. Well, that's not going to happen. If you know what's good for you, you'll make sure it doesn't happen. I don't like the tone of your voice. Calm down, I know you. This would be like you letting my husband find out. So he can kick me out. And I can be free to be Sam's mistress. I would never do something like that. Yes, you would. The only thing stopping you is certain knowledge. I will expose you. And about half a dozen men you care about. You've ruined my marriage, I'll ruin yours. Don't forget it. I won't forget this. See you tomorrow night. He hung up the phone. Now I think more. It sounds like Mandy is doing what she's doing in protest. But it doesn't make any sense to me. The fact is, she did it. That's what matters to me the most. The man she took care of the night before was already bad enough. But in her own words, there are another half a dozen or so. How long has this been going on? Why was I oblivious? I called Glenn. Told him the latest. Told him to focus on that man. Mandy spent the day with him. He already knew the man. Because he had been investigating Mandy since I started my shift. He told me the man was Samuel Billings. According to the hotel registry. Invited Mandy to dinner. Then back to his hotel room. Stayed for over 4 hours. Then followed them to my house. I told him Mandy was going to see that man. Was the mastermind behind all this. I told him I wanted everything he could give me. About Samuel Billings. I plan to find out those half a dozen or so. Who made Mandy do what she did? Then I plan to destroy all of them. Mandy was waiting for me again when I got home. We made love twice that night. Then she cuddled up to me and fell asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling. Thinking about the past few years. As far as I know, there was no change in Mandy's attitude towards me. She was gentle and loving, or a great actress. Our sex life was as good as ever. I had no way to point to something and say, right here, this is when she started doing things. When I finally fell asleep, my mind was full of questions. I had no answers. I waited an hour after Mandy went to work to check the audio and video recordings. I gave her an hour, in case she forgot something and came back. There was nothing on the phone recording. The only video was from the camera Glenn suggested we install in the kitchen and in our bedroom. Mandy and a man walked into the kitchen. Mandy asked the man if he wanted something to drink. He said a beer would be great if there was one. She got him a bottle of beer and a Diet Coke for herself, then sat at the table with him. "Do you have it?" he asked. She took something that looked like a CD from her pocket and slid it across the table to him. He opened his briefcase, took out an envelope, and pushed it towards her. She pushed the envelope aside and leaned in, saying, "So what now?" "He will be in town until Saturday. He has dinner plans tonight, but he wants to see you on the other nights. When he's here." "This won't happen. Rob is not here on Friday and Saturday of his shift. So those 2 nights are free. Can't you have a bachelor party with your friends? Or pretend you're going to an Avon party?" "I could, but I won't. I won't give up time with Rob. It's just this weekend. Everything else will be given to your husband." "No, John, I won't do that. So let everything stay as it is. This is a conversation I can't understand. She's cheating on me, but won't give up time with me. It doesn't make any sense." He shrugged, stood up. Mandy saw him to the door. After he left the bedroom, the camera showed Mandy reach into her wardrobe with the envelope she got and left without taking it. So on my to-do list, after I finished with the audio and video, was to check Mandy's wardrobe. Our bedroom wardrobe is actually 2. It spans the long side of our 5 by 7 meter bedroom. In the middle, there is a wall that divides the cabinet into 2 equal halves. One side is my dressing room, the other side is Mandy's. I actually have no need or reason to go to Mandy's half. In fact, I don't remember the last time I was there. I started searching from the door, walking towards the back door, until I got to the end. I found nothing until I got to the end. There were a dozen shoe boxes and hat boxes, and 3 medium-sized rolling drawers, with Mom's things written on the side with a marker. Mandy's mother passed away 3 years ago. The box contained her mother's belongings. She just couldn't let go. There was nothing in the shoebox or hat box. But when I opened the box marked Mother's things, I found 18 CDs with names and dates written on them, and 14 envelopes, similar to the one that John's boyfriend had slid across the table to her the night before. I opened one and found it stuffed with $150 and $20 bills. I counted and found there were $6,000 in the envelope. In the next box, I found her bath bag and some come find me high heels and lingerie that I had never seen her wear. I also found birth control pills, a diaphragm, and a bottle of emergency contraception. All good things for Mandy, because I am infertile due to some childhood reasons, like chicken pox or something similar from my mother. The third box actually contained her mother's things. I went to get a pen and a piece of paper, wrote down the names on the CDs, and then I called Glenn. I told him everything I had. After the call with Glenn, I hung up, went back to Mandy's wardrobe, counted the money in the envelopes. The most was $12,000. The least was $3,000. The total amount was $74,000. I wrote down the brand of the CDs and took 3. Went downstairs and put them into the CD player. It was almost the same as what she did to Billings. She had sex with 3 men on different days. and after a few times told them they had to leave. Before I got home, I brought it all back upstairs. Arranged it as I found it. I have never hit a woman in my life. But if Mandy had walked in then, I couldn't guarantee I wouldn't hurt her. I managed to pull myself together. By the time I left for work, I had a rough plan in my mind. For this job, I had to control myself and pretend everything was fine. I couldn't do anything. That would make Mandy suspect me. The problem was I didn't know if I could do it. She wasn't at the door when I got home that night. But she woke up and reached out. When I got into bed, I told her I was too tired for sex. She told me not to worry. She would do all the work herself. She slid down and finished it herself. Then she snuggled up to me, whispered "I love you," and fell asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to piece everything together. Everything she said to me, and everything she did for me, was what a loving wife would do. But how could she do what she did? It didn't make any sense. The next day's audio had John's boyfriend calling to confirm if everything was okay the night before. Then Mandy called John, telling him Billings had just left. Everything was fine. The video was almost the same as what happened last time. Started with work on the sofa. Transitioned to sexual intercourse in the bedroom. She took a shower, made the bed. Then climbed into bed and started reading. At that moment, I stopped watching. It was my first day off, so I was at home. When Mandy came home from work, I had dinner ready. She told me she wanted to take a quick shower before dinner. I had been in a smoky conference room most of the day. My hair and clothes were full of it, I smelled. This told me she might have been with Billings or another man earlier that day. Needed to wash off his scent before I noticed. This thought made me a little angry. I headed towards the bathroom, undressing as I walked. When I arrived, she was already under the shower with the water running. She was standing with her back to me. Clearly she hadn't heard me pull back the curtain, climb in, and close it. The first time she realized I was there was when I grabbed her hips and leaned forward, letting my knees not clamp her legs. I made love to her fiercely and steadily. Then I came out and told her to give me a towel. "I'll take care of your back while I'm here." We took the shower together. Then I told her I wanted to wash my hair here. The real reason I let her out first was to give her a chance to hide her underwear. Of course, when I came out of the shower, they were gone. I also wondered if she had become so accustomed to cheating that her actions became careless. Why didn't she shower and freshen up in Billings' hotel room? If she knew she was going to see him, why didn't she keep a clean pair of underwear in her bag? Why risk coming home fresh from sex when she knew I would be home when she got there? Of course, I rarely attacked her as soon as she got home. But sometimes I did. So why take the risk? At dinner, Mandy asked me what was wrong tonight. "I thought you might like this. You prepared it last night. I didn't take care of you." "Yes, you did. You held me, snuggled up to me. I needed that. But you got me. I didn't give back. You know I like to please you. You don't have to do this to me because I did it to you. I love you, baby. I like to please you." We spent my weekend. I didn't show any sign that I liked her. As for her, she was as attentive and loving as usual. One day, she thought I was dozing off on the sofa. She came over, leaned over and gently kissed my forehead, whispered "I love you," then went into the kitchen. I have no doubt she was serious, because she thought I was asleep, so she wouldn't be acting. But how could she love me and do what she did? No matter how many times I looked, or from which angle I looked at it, it still didn't make any sense. I almost said it twice, but stopped both times, because it would mean I would give up my plan. to find out about all the men she was dating, and to take revenge on them. My revenge was the most important thing. If Mandy knew I knew, she would undoubtedly let John's boyfriend know. I would lose the element of surprise. She would undoubtedly let John's boyfriend know. I would lose the element of surprise. I don't want them to see it happen. The only video on Monday was Mandy checking the radio before going to sleep. But this was audio from a bugged phone. "Hello, it's me. Do you have anything for me?" Only what happened to him on Thursday night. "I'll pick it up on Monday. We'll meet at Augustine's for lunch. Then you can give it to me. Are you ready for Wednesday?" "I'll always be ready." "You don't sound very happy, darling." "Should I?" "Of course, I hope so. The enthusiasm you show for your suitors is more than what I'm hearing now. Do you have any complaints so far?" "No. I'm tired, I'm going to sleep." She hung up. I called Glenn. Told him Mandy would be busy on Wednesday. He quickly reported to me what he found out about Samuel Billings. 38 years old, married to Carol for 15 years. Father of Ralph and Casey. He is the chief procurement officer of Apollo Industries, the company that manufactures some quite secret things for the U.S. Department of Defense. Glenn stood outside my house, waiting for John to leave after meeting with Mandy. He followed John. He's still digging, but was able to tell me John's full name is John David Gaynor. He is the vice president of Maxim Company, responsible for sales and marketing. This company is responsible for designing and manufacturing. Glenn hopes he can provide me with more information in a few days. I mentioned that it seems like Gaynor is collecting materials he can use to blackmail or coerce the men Mandy sleeps with. The other names I gave him may be related to purchasing from or to Maxim Company. This could be a starting point to find out who they are. On Wednesday and Thursday, Mandy entertained a man in our bedroom. She called him Frank. One of her hidden CDs contained a recording of Frank Stamper. It was more like intercourse, no. And it was nothing different from what she did with Billings. I read the notes every morning. Most of the information I got from it was: Gaynor called to confirm everything went well the night before and arranged to have lunch with Mandy, so she could tell him what the receiver recorded. On Friday morning, listening to the phone conversation gave me something. I passed it on to Glenn. It was normal until Gaynor said, "Is the meeting arranged?" "Yes, I will go to see him. As soon as my husband goes to work, I will go." My weekend went by quickly, and on Monday morning, Glenn told me Mandy left home 15 minutes after I went to work. She drove to Ferguson Motel 6. Knocked on the door of room 1118. The door opened, and she walked in. For a little bribe. He got the information. This room was registered to someone named Wright Baxter. Baxter is also one of the names on Mandy's secret tapes. Mandy stayed in room 1118 until 11 o'clock. Then she left and went home. I found out that I am not as patient as I always thought. My original plan was to find out all 7 men who were with Mandy, and then find a way to retaliate. But 4 weeks later, I only had Gaynor, Stamper, Billings, and Baxter. I was tired of listening to the audio, watching videos of my wife betraying me. I wanted to end this. I decided it was time to end this. I met with a lawyer and filed for divorce. I burned copies of Mandy's secret CDs on my computer. Then, waited until my lawyer told me everything was ready. At 11:10 on Thursday in May, a man approached Mandy's workplace and asked if she was a man-hater. When she said yes, he handed her an envelope, saying, "You are being sued." When Mandy opened the envelope, she found, in addition to the divorce proceedings for adultery, she was also subject to a restraining order. At least, to keep a distance of 500 feet from me at home. The only way she was allowed into the house was if she arranged a court-supervised visit. Come and pack up her belongings. I also attached a note saying she could call and leave a message on the answering machine, telling me what she wants put in the trash bag and to take it out. 150 meters away from the house. I also told her not to try to call me on my home phone or cell phone, because I don't want to talk to her at all. Of course, this was a lie. I wanted to know what really happened, but I made her sweat a bit before we sat down to talk. Meanwhile, Mandy was delivered within 5 minutes. Garner, Billings, Baxter, and Stamper received papers informing them that they were being sued for emotional alienation. At the same time, express couriers delivered packages to Garner, Billings, Stamper, and Baxter's fiancées. The morning all the papers were completed was very stressful for me. I gave Hal and Glenn all the surveillance equipment Mandy and Garner had placed in the house. They were busy dismantling it. A locksmith was changing all the locks in the house. A man from the end of the road was spreading ant bait around the house. Of course, Mandy ignored my note. My cell phone beeped every 4 or 5 minutes. Between calls the home phone rang. I heard the answering machine turn on. "Rob, are you there? Answer the phone, Rob. Come on, Rob, we need to talk." I ignored 2 calls. Even though Hal and Glenn had removed all the equipment Mandy and Garner had installed in the house, I let them keep what they put in. I ignored Mandy's attempts to contact me, waiting to see what would happen next. I knew Mandy would ignore the restraining order, just as she ignored my note, asking her not to disturb me by calling. Sure enough, when I came home from work on Sunday night, watching the video, the kitchen camera showed Mandy entering the kitchen through the door to the basement. The bedroom camera showed her walking into her closet, then coming out, with an expression that could kill. She might be very upset that her CDs and $74 were gone. The attic camera showed her sticking her head out of the hatch, seeing the Holman XK116 digital recorder was gone. I went to the basement and saw that one of the windows had been broken. So I called the police to report the break-in. I gave them a copy of my security system, told them 3 credit cards, $1,000 in cash, and my .38 caliber Smith & Wesson were gone. Especially this was a lie, of course. But I casually commented, "I don't understand why she would take the revolver." Then I suddenly said, "Oh, damn." One of the detectives said, "What? She's not too happy about our divorce. You don't think she would do that?" "At least I don't think she would." "Do you think I might need to buy a bulletproof vest?" I told them where she works. At 9 in the morning, they arrested her in front of her colleagues. She was charged with breaking and entering, and separate charges of theft of a firearm, and violation of a restraining order. Her father bailed her out. When I came home from work that night, there was a message from Mandy on my answering machine. Short and to the point. "You bastard," I laughed, and deleted it. I plan to take what I have to the president and CEO of Maxim and ask if he knows about Garner's activities, but then decided not to. I am suing. Garner losing his job means losing income, so I decided to wait until after the lawsuit to do this. Mandy calls me 2 or 3 times a day, but I don't answer any of them. She sent me a letter. I sent it back to her intact. She sat on the hood of my car, in the parking lot of the terminal, waiting for me to come out. So I took the service bus to the end point, and took a taxi home from there. In the following month, I heard every family member on both sides tell me I was unfair, not talking to Mandy. I told them all the same thing. She had an affair with 7 different men behind my back, was caught, and we have nothing to talk about. By cheating on me, she lost all rights to communicate with me. I will sit down and let her speak, but it will be at a time of my choosing, not hers. Frankly, I want her to suffer. I also suffered, but it didn't mean much to me. The problem is I love her. Even knowing what she did, I love her. The problem is more complicated. Because I really believe she loves me. What I can't understand is, how could she love me? And do what she did? According to the hidden disc, she had sexual intimacy with at least 7 different men. In the past year and a half. The men she had sex with then came to my house. Still smelling of them on her. Oh. I know she might have taken a shower before coming to see me. But their hands on her. They were inside her, a shower can't fix that. I am not in the same social or business circles as Garner, Billings, Baxter or Stamper. So I don't know how to deal with their wives. And fiancés. But my lawyer told me that their lawyers have contacted him. Garner and Baxter deny everything. Say they will go to court and take their chances. Billings and Stamper have offered to settle. I told my lawyer to continue settling the case. I don't want a long legal battle. I just want to hurt those bastards. I sent Baxter a note, telling him. Although I have made sure. His wife knows what he is doing to me. I have not yet shared that information. With his employer. But that could change at any time. 2 days later he offered to settle the matter. Garner stayed. He was the one pulling the strings. Mandy's pimp, so to speak. He is the one I really want to hurt. But all I have on hand are a few recorded conversations. And a video of him sitting at our kitchen table. Handing Mandy an envelope, taking a CD from her. To get it, I need more. And there is only one place I can get it. The next time Mandy called I answered the phone. Hello Rob? This is the phone. Hello Rob? It's Mandy. Yes, how are you? I haven't been very well lately, but it's been worse recently. I want to talk to you, Rob. About the mess we find ourselves in. What kind of anger might Amanda have? I separated myself from the chaos you created in my life. Please Rob, I love you. I need to explain what happened. It's not what you think. Please Rob, let me talk to you. I gave her about 5 seconds of silence, then said. Okay, Amanda, come home at 7 o'clock tonight. But I have some questions. I had better get honest answers. The first time. I even think you lied to me. You will walk out that door, and there will be no next time. You have one chance, and it's today. You understand, yes. I will not lie to you, Rob. I promise. Will it be the same as the promise you made to me when you married me? You know the one where you promised to be faithful to me? I'm sorry, Rob. I probably deserve it, but there will be no lies. See you tonight, goodbye. She stopped in front of the house at 20 to 7. I don't know if she was sitting there, trying to muster the courage to face me. Or she thought since I said 7 o'clock, she had better strictly follow my instructions. Not wanting to be a minute late. What I do know is, it was painful to watch her walk towards the house. She was as beautiful as usual. Leaving her was agony for me. She rang the doorbell at exactly 7 o'clock. I let her in and told her we would use the kitchen. When we got there, I pointed to a chair and said, You sit there, I'll sit here. Garner sat there. When he gave you the envelope with money, I saw the expression on her face when I said this. You are not the only one who has hidden cameras in the house. This should tell you. I know far more than you think. I know a way. If you try to lie to me, I will know. I told you, Rob, no lies, I'm not kidding. I put the tape recorder on the table in front of me. Pressed the record button and said, Okay, Amanda, you called this meeting. She looked at me, silent for a moment, then said, I need you to know one thing, Rob. I need you to know I love you. I love you with all my heart. I am willing to pay any price. If I could go back in time, change some things. I really love you, Rob. Everything that happened was not because you did something or did something wrong. I did what I did. Not because I don't love you anymore. I did it because I love you too much. To the point where I can't stand the thought of losing you. I just sat there quietly listening, watching her. What I did, Rob. I was forced to do it because of blackmail. She saw me about to speak. Raised her hand and said, "Please let me clarify. Rob, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. So please. Let me tell you everything before you say anything. I will answer all your questions after I'm done. But please let me tell you everything first." She looked at me for a moment, then asked, "Can I have a glass of wine? It will help calm my nerves." I opened a bottle of white wine. Put it in a glass in front of her. Then sat down and waited. She poured some wine into the glass. Took a small sip, and then told me. This story happened during my work shift. About 2 years ago. The company she worked for was hosting a cocktail party for their guests. Since I was working, Mandy's boss asked her if she would be willing to be the hostess. Because I wouldn't be home until midnight. Mandy said she would do it herself. In addition to one of the large rooms at the Hyatt Hotel. Her company also prepared a hotel room. Nothing unusual happened in the first few hours. Then Mandy started to feel strange. She felt a bit disoriented and dizzy. Her boss told her to go to the hotel room. Lie down. She doesn't remember the next part. But she knows what happened. Because they showed her the video. Phil, her boss, came to her to see if she was okay. When he leaned over to ask if she was all right, she grabbed his tie and threw him onto the bed. She rolled on top of him and kissed him. Then unzipped his pants and lay on top of him. I know Phil, I like him. I know him well enough to know he would never be interested in Mandy. But I also know if she was the aggressor, he wouldn't resist. Before Phil walked out the door, Baxter came in. And after Baxter, 3 men she didn't recognize appeared. By the time Baxter kissed her the second time, she began to realize what was happening. But she couldn't stop. By the time the other 3 men came back, a few seconds later, she had become a passionate participant. That was the night Phil called you, telling you the company put me in a room because they thought I had too much to drink. Baxter and 3 men took turns watching her until 2 in the morning, then left. The next morning Amanda woke up with a terrible headache. She cleaned herself up and started working. She hadn't seen the video yet, so she didn't know about Phil, wondering why he was avoiding her all day. She did know. She had been raped by 4 men she didn't know. When she got off work that night and went home, she was determined to tell me what happened. But when she saw me, she lost her courage. She went to work the next morning, determined to have the courage to face me. When she got home that night, but at 11:30, Phil called her to his office. John Garner was there. She knew. Garner had a lot of business with the company. But she didn't understand until Phil said, "John needs to talk to you about something. Why don't you come for a longer lunch?" What Garner wanted to talk to her about, she couldn't understand. But when they got to the restaurant, everything became clear. He slid half a dozen photos across the table to her, casually asking what I might think if I received copies. Or even copies of the video. "I can't let you see those photos. If there's a video, it can only be 10 times worse than the photos. Even if I think I like it. I know I didn't do it on purpose." She later learned that Baxter told Garner he wanted to have sex with Mandy. Garner asked how much it would take to do it. Baxter said for someone as sweet as Mandy, he would give his entire business to Maxim. Not just a part of it. Garner said agreed. Garner gave Mandy a date rape cocktail. Apparently he does this often. And always has some in his car, briefcase or pocket. When Phil told Mandy to go to the hotel room, apparently, He does this often, and always has some in his car, briefcase or pocket. When Phil told Mandy to go to the hotel room, Garner said he was going to go back to his room, and offered to accompany Mandy back to her room, to make sure she got there safely. He lay on the bed, then hurried upstairs to the room he rented. He planned to arrange for another company's buyer and an available girl and record it on tape. He hurried to the room, picked up the camera, then brought it back to the hotel room. He hid the camera, turned it on, then followed Baxter. When he got back to the room, Mandy and Phil were already there. The deal was simple. Gaynor needed a favor. If Mandy agreed to do this, he would give her the photos and videos. The help included him and one of his clients spending a day. She just needed to have those photos and the corresponding videos. Given everything she had been through, what else could she not do? Do it again, she would be forced to auction. She would still tell me what happened, but she would tone it down a bit. Probably only tell me about Baxter. But most importantly, I would never see those photos and videos. She agreed to provide a one-time service. She and the client spent an afternoon in the hotel room. Then Gaynor gave her the cocktail party photos and videos. She destroyed them, then started to muster the courage to face me, to tell me about the cocktail party and what happened. That night I worked overtime. So, her confession had to wait until the next day. The next day, Gaynor called her and said he needed another favor. He had another client to take care of. She laughed at him, told him not to forget about it. Now she had the photos and videos. He had no power over her. Then Gaynor told her, yes, she did have the original, but he had copies. He also had a recording of her the previous afternoon, pursuing his client. From then on, she became Gano's little girl, to prevent any attempts she might make against him later. By reporting to the authorities, he blackmailed her. He started giving her sales commissions. This happened after she took care of one of his friends. He did this in his rental apartment. So he filmed her taking the money and put it into her wallet. The furniture in our house had a double purpose. First, to record her meetings at home. Second, Gaynor wanted to monitor me, to see if I became suspicious, and started checking Mandy. He got along well with her, especially people like Baxter and Billings, who kept coming back for more. He didn't want to lose them, so he monitored me. If I started to become suspicious, Mandy finally realized if he could use tapes against her, then she could use them against him too. She started copying everything. Everything she captured from the receiver. She kept a set for herself. When the time came, she planned to tell Gaynor no more. When he threatened to show her the tapes, she told him that if he did, she would expose him to every man around her. He forced her to have sex. When should this happen? Once I have $100,000. I plan to tell you what I did. I hope to be able to have enough money to come back. If you kick me out. What if you kick me out? Do you think I might not do that? I hope you can love me as much as I love you. You will understand why I did this. What I did, I don't want to lose you, Rob. I still can't understand. If you had seen that tape. I had no choice, Rob. I couldn't risk you being with me after seeing the video. I'm not sure what would happen if I said it directly at the cocktail party. But without the video, I think maybe I still have a slim chance. If you see me with Baxter and the others, I have no chance at all. How many times did you have to persuade Phil to let you play at the hotel? All along. The only time I did anything with Phil was on party night. He gave me paid leave. Gaynor said he needed me. He didn't really want to. But Gaynor showed Phil the photos of Phil and I having sex, and hinted that if Phil's wife got the video, it would be a pity. I think Phil would fire you. Now I have warned everyone. No, Phil and I talked about something. We are all holding our breath. To see what Gaynor can do. He can't hurt me anymore. He also has no reason to hurt Phil. But who can be sure? Phil knows I wasn't myself that night. So we were able to make up. That's it. Is there anything else? She hesitated for a few seconds, then said. I hope I can persuade you. To give me the money. You took from my closet. Now you kicked me out, I can use it. I'm sorry, you can only consider this. The cost of your betrayal. If you agree to testify against him. If I end up suing him. I will certainly do so, and I will do it for free. I will tell you. I stood up. Clearly indicating, as far as I understand. Her visit has ended. She looked up at me. Really no chance, Rob? Really no chance we can get through this? And be together? I love you, Rob. God knows what I love. I can't understand what happened to Amanda. If you told me right after the cocktail party, there might be a chance. But now after so many months and so many men, I don't know what to do. With tears in her eyes, I escorted her to the door. As I watched her drive away, there were tears in my eyes too. The next day, I went to the Maxim office building in the city. Heading towards Gaynor's office. I walked straight past his secretary. She jumped up, telling me I couldn't come in. I smiled at her and said it's okay, dear. He's expecting me. When I entered, he was sitting at his desk reading some documents. He looked up, and I saw a flicker of recognition cross his face. Mr. Gaynor, I believe I said I was Mandy's husband. But I think you already knew that. He began to stand up. I said you don't need to stand up. I won't be here for long. I threw the envelope onto his desk and said, you're not the only one with hidden cameras. In my home, in this envelope, you'll find 4 things. One of them is a copy of the videotape you gave to my future ex-wife. An envelope filled with money in exchange for recording her and Billings' night. The second item is a copy of the audio recording from that night with Billings. This is just to let you know that you yourself copied everything you had her do in our house so your hidden cameras could record it. The third point is an excerpt from the recordings Amanda made for me last night. These excerpts will let you know that she has agreed to testify against you. If the case goes to court, that's exactly how it will end. If you don't use it, here's my lawyer's card with a phone number on it. I strongly suggest you call him and let him know that you intend to settle the lawsuit I am bringing against you. If you don't make that call, I will put everything on the table next Friday. I turned and left the office. As I reached the door, I turned to him and said, hey, have a nice day, then walked away. The next day my lawyer called me, saying Gaynor had called him, agreeing to an out-of-court settlement. I waited until all the receipts were cleared and the dust settled. Then I made 6 copies of everything and sent a set to the president and CEO of Maxim and each of the 5 board members. 3 days later, I received a call from a very angry man. John Gaynor, you son of a bitch. You said you wouldn't do anything if I agreed. No, that's not what I said. I said if you agreed, I wouldn't turn it over to the DEA so they could bring criminal charges against you. I didn't say I wouldn't tell your boss. I just wanted to let you know that it's all about revenge. I hung up the phone. Mandy asked who it was, your former pimp. He was very angry because somehow his boss found out what he was doing. It made him so angry that he fired Gaynor. Yes, Mandy came back to the house. She didn't return my kindness, but she came back to the house. She would sleep in the guest room until we see if we can get things back to normal. I'm not at all sure if we can do that. I really love her. I really believe she loves me. So I'm willing to try. But I don't know if that love is enough. There are some issues to resolve. Trust is one of them. Another issue is, Mandy was right when she said she thought we might have a chance. If I had never seen the video of her at the cocktail party. I never saw that video. But I saw all the other videos she hid in her closet. Images of Mandy with other men are imprinted in my mind. Every time I look at Mandy, they start to play in my mind. I told her I would try, I would. I will do my best, but I make no promises. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's story. If you like it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care. I wanted to make Mandy's life as difficult as possible.